Welcome to Deeds of Trust, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the extraordinary acts of kindness, integrity, and dedication from our members, building trust within our communities and throughout our association. I'm your host, Steve McDonald. Join me as we dive into the inspiring stories behind the deeds that create lasting connections and strengthen the bonds of trust that truly make a difference. Hey, RALSC, we're really excited about today. We have the opportunity to speak with two of our members, two long-standing members with RALSC, and get their perspective of the business, how it's changed, and where they see this association going forward. I'm Steve McDonald, your CEO.
I'm Mark Dyer, your president.
And today we have Ms. Marilyn Hottle.
President a couple times.
Yeah. And Mr. Glenn Tyre. It's good to see y'all. Thank you so much for being here. This is going to be
the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. This is going to be a blend of a little bit of a podcast and a little bit of video. Thank you both for agreeing to do this. Marilyn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Tell me a little bit about myself. Well, I got into real estate in the state of Pennsylvania, and how I got involved in real estate, what drew me to it, was my husband and I was married at 19, bought a beauty shop when I was 19. I had a hairdresser's license, but as the years progressed, we would buy homes, fix them up, and flip them, basically.
Okay.
Well, by the fourth or fifth time we did this, I had the process down, and I was interested in the process. I went to a career night for real estate. My husband went with me, and when we walked out, I was really excited. I wanted to go into real estate. My husband had no interest at that time, so I did get my real estate license. I remained working at hairdressing one day a week. I worked Thursdays from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Wow.
But that was the source of my business in real estate.
Oh, I'm sure.
My first week with the broker, I listed a property who was a customer's property,
Right.
and just by accident, another customer was looking to buy, and they bought my listing. So the first week I
Sold the house.
yes, I bought,
Beginner's luck is
listed
what they
and
call
sold.
it,
the
yes.
same
You hit
house.
the ground running.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was a different market then, and
Yeah.
I was the first woman agent in my office.
And what year was that?
That was 19, about 81 maybe. Yeah, I was the first woman agent in my office.
My mother was first licensed in the early 80s as well
Yes.
in Tennessee,
Uh-huh.
and she actually had to find a sponsor because brokerages wouldn't allow women in their real estate offices. Did you ever have that experience?
Wow. Glenn shaking
I
his
had
head.
that experience. Like I say, being the first woman agent, my broker was great. Loved the rest of the guys were great to work with, the agents.
Yeah.
I proved myself the first week, so they, I had a good time with them. But the sales manager would try to insult me or whatever. But anyway, one day, I can't use the words, but I just looked at him and said, "Greg, I don't have any, so don't try to bust them." And from then on, he was okay. He was okay. Yes.
What about you, Mr. Glenn? What was your start?
Well, I'm a Lake County native, and my family were involved in citrus operations here in Lake County, and I always had full intentions of working in citrus. I went to the University of Georgia and came back to Lake County, and then I started thinking about what I could do in the summer months when I shouldn't have to necessarily spray orange groves and hoe trees and so forth. So I thought about the possibility of buying and selling real estate, mostly for the family. I wanted to grow citrus, and then in the summer months I thought about getting my real estate license and buying and selling orange groves primarily. And that worked out, pretty well. One of the things that Marilyn talked about, one of the first experiences, one of my first experiences was a little bit different, but it was an educational situation where I got listed a 15-acre orange grove over in Orange County, right at the Lake County line. And I immediately got a buyer, and the seller said, now, I'll tell you one thing right now, I'll pay for title insurance, but I'm not going to pay for a survey. And so I didn't think that was any big problem. And of course, in that time, we did some abstract work a long time ago, but that was not uncommon to have an abstract. But this gentleman didn't have an abstract, he didn't have title insurance. So I thought I could order title insurance through Lake County, but I found out I had to go to Orange County because the property was located in Orange County. And as we got into the process, all of a sudden, the lawyer's title in Orange County said, we're not going to write a policy without a survey. Well, the owner said, I told you, Glenn, I was not paying for a survey. So guess who paid? My broker and I paid for the survey.
15
But
acre
it was an
survey.
educational process to where it made me realize that it wasn't just the knowledge that you had about the land and the citrus and et cetera. It was the teamwork that was involved with the lawyers and the surveyors and the adjusters and the inspectors and you name it. You know, it wasn't just sales. It was a real teamwork situation that I realized real quick that I needed to be part of a team and not an independent type person.
And how that still hasn't changed today. It still requires a team to
Right.
get a transaction
Absolutely.
closing.
Right.
With the
Pretty much so, but it was unfamiliar to me because I thought I could talk the seller into paying for the survey. And I had known the seller. I had harvested his fruit in years past, or my family had.
Yeah.
So I was really caught by surprise where he stood firm and said, and by the way, the first survey cost several $1,000s.
Sure.
Much more than what we ever had anticipated, because see, there had been no title insurance and no abstract
Ever.
Yeah.
on the property
Wow.
that we could find at all. That's it. That's
You get to
the
take
end
any
of my
oranges
story
home for
about
that?
my first sale.
You should have got some oranges for that. Picked a few off the trees.
Yeah.
So as technology has advanced, what was the first cool thing that came to business for y'all that helped move your business along?
You know, it's funny, back in the day when I first moved here and joined the association, we would meet every Wednesday morning, all the members, at the Eustis Community Center, and you would bring your MLS book, which
Right.
was a thick book, and there'd be a long line up front, and you'd stand up and you'd say, I'm Marilyn Hottle with Camelot Realty, and go to page 40, center left, there's been a price change, you know, to whatever.
Wow.
Or go to page 86 and bottom left, it's now under contract, and everybody's sitting there frantically making these changes in their MLS books.
Wow.
You know, and of course it was once a week, but it wasn't up to date. So when MLS, you know, online first came, you know, this technology was like amazing,
Right.
you know, and of course we all had to go to a lot of training because none of us were used to the technology part of real estate. But we certainly caught on in a hurry. That was the upside. The downside, I think, was we didn't have those Wednesday meetings anymore.
Oh yeah.
So you didn't have the one-on-one with the other, you know,
Wow.
associates. You didn't get to know them on a personal level. And I think since I've been a member, I served on professional standards, chaired it a couple times. Back then, you had, like, if you had one hearing a year, it was a big deal. You know, because you knew each other. And you'd call and you'd say, you know, Mark, I understand your seller's this and my buyer's that, but how can we work it out? And,
Right.
you know, we knew each other and we would work it out. Now, you know, it goes beyond that. You know, so the plus is the technology's great, but you lose the personal.
Yeah, it divided you.
Yep.
How much time have you gotten back that you don't have to go get signatures or go pick a key up at an office and turn turn it back in.
I don't miss the picking up the key. I gotta admit. that was a big improvement. I don't know. Like I said, there's pluses and minuses with the whole thing, in my opinion.
How many members were in the association then?
How many members? Glenn and I both saw the evolution. I mean, when I joined in the early 80s, there was only maybe, I don't know what, 150 members maybe. And then we went on, and many times we had tried to merge with, at that time, we were just Lake County Association. Right. We were trying to merge with Leesburg Association because, our markets overlapped.
Sure.
And the Orlando Regional MLS, so we all had a fear they're trying to take us over, So there was many times that it was attempted, but the first year I was president, I was fortunate enough, just by chance, I ran into the president of the Leesburg Association at a FAR meeting, and we sat and talked and figured out, we literally made a list of benefits to the agents, because it was going to a membership vote on both ends, Leesburg and Lake County. So we did, and we got it passed, and we got fewer people involved in a way, but it still went to the member vote. But by then we had a list of the benefits. Right. And of course with the regional MLS, that was a fear of the things they're going to try to take us over. Right. So we increased our numbers, Right. So it was an exciting time, yeah.
Who was the
and
president
then a few
then?
years after, I was president when we merged with Leesburg, and I'm trying to remember who was president when South Lake joined us. It wasn't long after that South Lake, joined, and so we all merged together, and we felt stronger in numbers.
Nice.
Yeah. And what was the association like for you, Glenn, when you joined?
Well, I did a little bit of history research, and this organization was chartered, I think, in 1923 with 15 members. And when I came along in the 60s, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 or 50. And then it gradually moved upward from that point. And if you don't mind, I want to make a comment about the women in our organization, in that we were very fortunate in that we had quite a few women that played roles in our leadership. They didn't necessarily own offices, but they certainly taught a lot of the courses on all levels, all the way to the state. And we were pretty well known for GRI graduates, and education was emphasized because a lot of these women were teachers at one time in their previous career.
Right.
And it was kind of interesting to see that we did not grow real fast, but you've got to realize this county was a 100% citrus or agricultural county, and we didn't need a lot of salespeople involved because there was very little being sold. There was very little residential homes even. Our builders were prominent builders. They built 6 houses a year. And it was always amusing to me to watch our whole economy change when various things happened from the agricultural basis, when we had a major freeze or we had some type of issue develop for agricultural purposes. You could see the change in the environment, the change in occupations, and the change in the type of people that were moving to Lake County.
So I had a quick question, because I worked for the Villages for 9 years, and then I had my own company for 16. And so you probably met Jim Shea or Harold Schwartz, and that's been a huge transition in Lake County.
From Orange Blossom Gardens to the Villages, and I watched every step of the way.
Yeah.
It was very, very interesting to watch that. And one of my associates made one of the first commercial sales to the family group, and it was a Winn-Dixie, and it was at a point where the management team of Winn-Dixie said, we're not interested right now, we might want to come back later. And Mr. Schwartz said, well, it will not be another opportunity for you, either it's now or not for you. And the guy said, well, or my associate's boss said, well, we'll take our chance, and shook his hand. And then later realized that what he had done, in terms of the expansion and the plans developed, and everything happened that they indicated that they would be doing in growth. Interesting.
Was Orange Blossom Gardens, was that a mobile home community
Yes.
to
That
start?
was only a mobile home.
I remember that, yeah.
It was only, at that point in time, on the east side of 441.
Yeah.
Right.
It was only later that they bought the additional land starting on the south side.
I remember
And then they put the bridge up. Then we knew they were getting serious.
Right.
Yeah.
They put
They
the bridge
up.
over.
I just sold a house
441.
maybe 2 months ago at 622 Jennifer, named after Jennifer Parr,
Yeah.
Harold's granddaughter.
Oh,
Just maybe
that's
2 months
nice.
ago. And it was probably 4 years old on
Yeah.
the east side.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, they participated with our organization
For
in
many
a
years.
smaller way, pretty much, because you could tell they had developed their own operational plans, but
Absolutely.
they were still very friendly and very cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
What were housing prices like when you were in the business, just starting out?
I bought my first house overlooking East Crooked Lake, 2-bedroom, 2-bath brick, $15,000, and this was in 1965 when I graduated from college.
Overlooking East Crooked
Crooked
Lake.
Lake, yeah.
I showed a house a year ago to a client of mine on East Crooked Lake for $1.5 million.
Wow.
And you know, what was interesting, you will hear me come back to this agricultural statement over and over again. I used to say that we didn't really need zoning back then. By the way, zoning wasn't really effective in Lake County until the late 50s.
Huh.
Prior to that, people just made their own adjustments pretty much, and no citrus owner was going to push up an orange tree and build his house. He could own all of the lakefront in the whole county, but he lived in town.
Mhm.
And mostly all of our citrus owners lived in major cities or towns, and did not live on the farm.
Oh.
That made it a little hard to borrow money sometimes, because loan people were used to farmers living on their farm.
Mhm.
And they would say, you mean you don't live on the farm? No, we don't live on the farm. And then they would, make all kinds of acquisition statements about, well, we want to bring in what other investments you want to put in the same total. And the grower said, no, we don't want that. We want to borrow money on this orange grove. But it was a totally different concept of financing. It was a lot of owner financing back then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What year was the freeze?
1983. Well, we had a freeze in 57. My whole life was geared around freezing.
Yeah.
57, 62, 67, and then the big one for us was 83.
83.
Yeah.
And that took out a lot of the citrus in this area.
Yeah, it hit above Highway 50 severely, but it did go all the way south and all the way to Indiantown, or some degree of damage, not super serious, but
They were still recovering from that when I moved here. I remember that. Oh.
and 83, then 85. See, we thought we were going to make a comeback, and then in 85 we had another one, and so that really just did. By that time, then canker started coming in, and other diseases, and greening ended up giving us the big disaster kick, you might say.
What was your first sale? Do you remember your first sale?
When we first moved here, my husband and I bought a house, and it was a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 2,000 square feet. At that time, it was still kind of hard to find a 3-bedroom home because most everybody was retirees. And we had, 2 kids. So anyway, but we bought this, it was a new build, Kevin Burkholder built it. And it was, like I say, 2,000 square feet, it was 69.9. Now
What year was that?
It was in Eustis on Center Street,
Oh, wow, my wife lived on Center Street.
Yes.
What year was that?
86.
86, okay.
And now that house would be worth upper threes, I would say, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of price changes, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Since you've been in the business for a while, how many times have you resold the same property?
Wow.
Or have you resold the same property?
Yeah. We have, one of the greatest parts to me about the business was every year when we had the office, we had about 40, 45 agents, and we'd have a customer appreciation night every year. And of course, there were a lot of people there. And one of the proudest things was, I remember there was 3 generations that we had sold houses to. It was the grandparents, the parents, and the adult child,
yeah, that's neat.
And that was really neat just to think that, you would service that whole family. That was great. Yeah, there was some good times. And I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was your first sale, you said?
What was my first sale?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you bought your house. Do you remember your first sale that you got under contract on your own down here in Florida?
Yes, I do. And it was scary as can be. It was, I got a listing, I got a call on floor time for a listing, and it was for a mobile home, and it was way out 44 East, off to the left there. And I remember I went out in the evening, because it was a younger man and he worked, and I went out in the evening and I pulled into this mobile home on this vacant land, and there was this big dog barking like crazy. Yes, that was different from Pennsylvania. And anyway, I was nervous, about this dog, and also I didn't, really know the market. But anyway, he was a nice young man, and it did end up selling, and so that was good. My second one was a condo on Eudora Boulevard, which was old, and I was scared to death to show it at night. At that time, it was kind of a rundown area. It has improved tremendously over the years. They've totally redone it and all that.
Right.
But it took me a while I didn't have that sphere of influence here like I had in Pennsylvania,
Right.
So it took a while. But like I say, the good news was people walked into the office then, retirees and that, just looking to, a lot of times they were looking in Florida. So what I did was I had set up an area tour. And I would take them around, show them where the lakes were. I'd take them downtown Mount Dora, because that's what drew me to the area, was downtown Mount Dora. It reminded me of Pennsylvania, felt like home. But we would, do an area tour and then gradually find out. And a lot of times they're looking all over Florida, but if you could connect with them here, you could end up selling them a home in Lake County. Yeah.
What were the contracts like when your first contract that you worked on?
Well, that was the Lake Jim story that I told earlier about the 15-acre grove in the survey call.
So how many pages?
But we sold a lot of property over and over again, and if I had an advantage in selling real estate, knew citrus pretty well, and the citrus growers knew me. So through the years, I could bank on the fact that if they wanted, for tax purposes, they wanted to buy in a given year, or they didn't want to buy. And that was always something that I tried to stay ahead of and know the market conditions. And one story that I tell, in the month of December, citrus growers started figuring out what their income tax level was. And this gentleman came in and bought a smaller grove like the 1st of November, thinking he needed the tax advantage. about December the 5th or so, he called and he said, "Hey, do you think you could resell that same growth?" I said, "Yes, sir, I think so." And so we listed it and sold it, and the attorney closed it twice. And that didn't happen, but that one time that I can remember. But in a small community like Eustis and like Lake County, the population was so small that the realtors were not as abundant as they are now.
Right.
So therefore, the competition was there, but it was friendly competition, and it was competition, like Marilyn said, that came from up north. I know I one time sold a house to a fireman in Miami, and I got the bright idea I could advertise in Miami and bring some customers up here. But it didn't ever really work too favorable for me, because I found out that people, when they were looking at Homes and Land magazine in Miami, they were looking for Miami property. They were not looking for Lake County property. But I also found out that there wasn't just one Homes and Land magazine. There were like 6 or 7.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had to spend enough money to cover all 6 or 7 of them. That I learned a lot. You know, in this business, or in any business, you learn as you go, and you don't know it all.
Yep.
And you never will know it all. But there's a need for realtors. That the average person is beginning to get well educated in that area of knowledge. There's no doubt about that. But they still don't realize what you go through. And I made some notes, and then again, the people involved in a transaction. It's just not a real estate listing and sale.
Right.
There's teamwork involved, and if you don't play on the team, you don't win many games. You just don't win sitting on the bench.
Steve, you mentioned the contracts. I remember the original offer would be on a half page, the original, and basically it gave the address, the price, what you were going to mortgage, and then what you'd come to closing with. That's all.
And
that
the
was
parties,
it.
the buyers.
And then if it was accepted, negotiated and accepted, then there was a full page contract.
Ooh.
1 page.
Contract.
Yes. So yeah, contracts have gotten a little more involved since then.
They're a little longer now.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about a 6.5% interest rate compared to the last 50 years? People are complaining, oh my goodness, you know, they're wishing for that 3% that we had 3 or 4 years ago. My first house was 9%.
Yeah.
I was happy.
Yeah. You know, the scary part to me is in the past, my experience anyway, is bad things happen when interest rates do get higher as they're growing. Because what happens, and it's happening now in our market, is like the new home sales are up because they're buying down the mortgage rate.
Right.
But that's only for a couple of years.
Yep.
So when that 3 years or whatever it is up, then of course the interest rate comes up. And that's what happened in 2009.
Yep.
And that's when, you know, the short sales started. I'll never forget the first sales meeting when I got up front and start talking about short sales. The agents are looking at me like, what is the short sale? You know, I mean, we hadn't experienced that. And eventually led to some foreclosures.
Oh,
And, you know, recovering from that takes a while. And I'm sure Glenn remembers there was, you know, a lot of agencies that went out of business during those years. Because,
interest rates also got as high as 16%.
yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
back in the
And
80s.
let me tell you
Yeah.
what,
Reagan
those
years.
were the days when you felt sorry for these people that misjudged the percentages,
Right.
and we were all caught in a trap, you might say.
So
And
6.5% is not bad.
that
relatively
probably made
speaking.
us even more cooperative, trying to keep everybody surviving.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, we didn't care. We didn't want a realtor to go out of business. We wanted
Right.
Yeah.
to have activity within our group. And the first thing you learn when you're selling real estate is that you don't want to just capitalize on the sale by yourself. It's great, but if you don't work at teamwork, you don't make.
That's
much
right.
money. You really don't. You've got to help each other. And again, when I first got into real estate, it was always very interesting. We had 2 or 3 older gentlemen mostly, but I won't name their names. They were great people. They really took it upon themselves to help educate you. They would actually call you up. See, I was a young broker, 23, 25 years old. So they would call me once in a while and say, well, Glenn, you need to do this, or you need to reconsider this, or whatever. I didn't want to argue with them. I wanted to learn.
Right.
And I didn't take an offense if one of these older gentlemen that had been in sales in Lake County for 10 or 15 years, I respected that. And we all learned that there were no kings in the pasture. You just worked with each other.
Yeah.
And this cooperation that Marilyn's talking about, the MLS meeting Wednesday mornings at 7:30 in the morning, and we would have as many as 80 or more people, maybe more, at the community buildings. And
Because we outgrew a couple places before
I was
that.
going to say that,
Yeah.
that when we first started, see, one of my first MLS meetings goes back further than Marilyn was talking about. We actually showed up with our own listing books. They were all the same. We did have the thought process developed to be uniform in a little book, and the form was the same for anybody and everybody. And so we came prepared to pass out our listings probably at Lakeshore Acres in the back room that held 15 or 25 people at the maximum. And that's how we developed and went larger to what Marilyn referred to as the Eustis Community Center, and also the outdoor baggage room. We outgrew it, and then that brought us into the whole new area of building an office or owning an office. We'll talk about that later, I know, but we all grew in such a way that we were not concentrating on growth as much as we were servicing existing, staying in business.
Where was the first association of realtors that you joined? Where was that office?
Marilyn, I just have to say this. Actually, our executive officer back in those days carried the books around in her trunk of her car. And that's the truth.
Wow.
And we would rent small offices, mostly Tyre's, and we didn't ever have a meeting room, hardly. Maybe 1 or 2 office areas would be big enough. But in 1980, let me think about this, 82, we bought our first building. Can I go ahead and bring it up kind of to date on this?
Yeah.
We formed a committee. We didn't have any money. This secretary was tired of hauling books around in her trunk of her car. There were two ladies that were fantastic bookkeepers and executive officers. I mean, Steve, you're great, but I'm telling you, those 2 ladies, they had to do it all, and it was really a job. So we got a committee together, and as I said, we had no money. And we sat around the table, and brokers only back then. And Marilyn Weiss and David, her husband, were realtors. I don't necessarily want to bring up names in this meeting discussion tonight, but we respected them enough that they stepped forward and said, we just reconditioned a building in Tyre's. It was a past restaurant, and it was big enough to have our offices there and our officials there and our directors meetings and so forth, and some of our educational meetings. But real meetings, we had to go elsewhere. And I even had the address of of the building. It was 725 East Alfred Street.
Oh, wow.
And the picture of it is, this is what it looked like. It's kind of unique in that. Let me explain real quick how we raised enough money. We convinced our brokers, Marilyn might not know this story, we convinced our brokers that if we needed a down payment, the best way to do it is to ask the brokers to pay in advance a membership fee.
Oh.
And that's how we raised $10,000 for our first down payment. Marilyn and David carried the mortgage, and in 3 years we paid it all.
Mm-hmm.
And the price was $80,000.
Wow.
But that's teamwork. When they moved forward, they made a little money on that building, but they didn't make an enormous amount.
Mm-hmm.
And we stayed in that building until
Yeah.
the new team built this building. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been amazing to watch our growth pattern.
It wasn't until after
Through
the
years.
mergers with Leesburg and
Yeah.
South Lake is when we built this building, because just size-wise, we had so many more members then, we needed
Right.
to expand.
So we're blessed to have a little bit of history on a plaque here in our building that has all of the associations that now are
Right.
the Realtors Association of Lake and Sumter counties. There was the Leesburg,
Mhm.
there was the Mount Dora, there was Lake County, the
Mhm.
Lake Board,
Mm-hmm.
and you said South Lake had.
South Lake had their own association for a while, and then we merged with them. That was after we merged
See,
with Leesburg.
I didn't ever realize that they had their own association, but they seemed to keep to themselves pretty much. And there wasn't but about 10 of them at the most. In the early days, there were just 4 or 5
Yeah.
realtors.
And what do you remember about Sumter County? Did Sumter have a board of Realtors?
Well, isn't Claremont part of Sumter County?
No.
No. South
No,
Lake.
it's
No,
Lake
that's
County.
still Lake.
See, our Lake County included Astor all the way to Claremont, Groveland,
Right.
and
What was Sumter
the whole
County?
eastern part of the Golden Triangle. And Leesburg was basically Leesburg and a little bit of North Lady Lake and so forth, the villages,
Mm-hmm.
and a little sliver going down toward Groveland. But they didn't have near the membership we had, and they had a smaller office. They saw what we did, and they bought their own office, but it was a smaller office, and we all were, you might say, very cost conscious. And
Is there a piece of advice that you wish that you had been given early in your career, now that you can pay it forward, and share that with a new member?
I can tell you one thing, by the way. John Thomas, you remember him?
Yeah.
Century 21. When I left the villages and I started my company,
Yes.
he was talking to me. We met for breakfast one day, and he was considering maybe transitioning out or retiring, and he said, no matter whatever you do in real estate, sooner or later you're going to get paid back for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never forgot that 16 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good piece of advice. They always go over and above for people. And
I think one of the most satisfying things is was fortunate enough to own my own company for several years, and we did a thing that was great, because in real estate, it kind of came up. People come from all professions, teachers being one of them, but there's so many people from different, even some medical people came into
Right.
real estate. There's such a variety. And people didn't click right away. So at our sales meeting, we did a thing called Getting to Know You. And every week we would take a turn. One of the agents would get up and tell about where they were born, where they came from, what they did previously, talk about their families, whatever. But when you got to know these people on a personal
Right.
level, it became a family. It really did. It became a family. And, I miss that. I miss that part of it now, because that was great.
we get that now mainly with our committees and with our board of directors.
Yes.
We've
Yes.
got 15 board of directors and
Right,
executive team.
right.
So it feels like that.
Yeah.
So we get that
Yeah.
small
Uh-huh.
group feel.
Yep.
Yeah, and I enjoy that.
Makes a difference,
Yeah.
yeah.
Glenn, what's a piece of advice you'd give to a brand new member?
Well, I think I've always encouraged people to participate with their community activities in their civic clubs locally, and to emphasize education. Like I was saying, we used to have a real challenge trying to promote GRI graduates and taking more and more real estate courses. We even promoted VOTEC school. We met with some of the administration to talk about the teaching of real estate in the VOTEC programs or in the college programs, and we emphasize those type of things that would build a stronger organization here, and it worked, and it took effort. Teamwork again is a word that I used 1,000 times.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about even some fun activities, we would have various organizational meetings and parties and get together. And can we cover a minute or so of fun and activities?
Of course.
In one year, we knew that the FFA needed some help on some of their kids. Were afraid they were not going to be able to make any money at all on some of their animals.
Future
So
Farmers
I
of
think it was
America.
about 83.
Future Farmers of America.
We bought a pig, and then we had a pig race. And we had this at Mount Dora at the waterfront, and we just had a great afternoon. The
I
men
bet.
and women brought covered dish, and then we had the pig pork, and it was a lot of fun. It went on into late, almost dark, and then we painted a house one time. In that the state came out. The president at that time of the state organization emphasized community activities and involvement, and encouraged associations to find a house that maybe belonged to a widow lady or whatever, and we found a lady up in Umatilla. I even have the address of it, Lakeside Drive in Umatilla, right behind the city hall. And the little lady couldn't paint her house or have it painted. She couldn't do any work on her property. And we went up there as a whole group. I mean, there was no one office. There was one. It was collectively everybody. And we went up there and pressure washed it and painted the house.
Wow.
We did a little bit minor landscape, but we got so much recognition on that it just really was a great plan, a great idea. It was kind of hard to budget time to do those things. After all, we're in business to make money.
Absolutely.
We need to do that, certainly, but we also need to help the community. And this emphasizes that realtors are not selfish people. They're interested in what's happening in their territory.
I found that too. One year I co-chaired, we had a committee for Habitat for Humanity. And so we got, members that were builders involved and all these different things. But a lot of times, literally there was a bunch of realtors. We were all there hammering stones and, doing all that. But like Glenn said, not only are you there to participate in civic duty, but you do get good recognition. It's a good look for the Realtors Association. Yeah.
My cousin Gus, he says, and he may have stole it from his dad. He called it co-opetition.
Okay.
And that's kind of the
Great
theme
word,
of your teamwork.
Mhm.
And I'd love to see co-opetition
Yeah.
build back up.
Oh, absolutely.
What I was always impressed with is men and women big offices, little offices. We all came as a group and got paint all over us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got dirty.
Yeah.
And it was, you were accomplishing something. It was neat.
What do you think the association would look like in the future?
I would like to think in the future that the association, as it always has and is currently, provides the services and stuff. Just like I always felt the agents in my office were my customer. Indeed, the members of the association are the customer
Right.
of our
That's what we
association.
work for.
And, they're fulfilling every educational need we have, etc. And I don't know what we do without that. And it's on a local level. And, we can't lose that cooperative thing. And the way to do that is for the members to get together, know each other.
Right.
And, work as a big team, because we make each other look good or bad,
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
We can make each other look
Yeah.
good or bad.
yes. Could I add one more thing that I made a note here, and it's too funny. It was about women in real
Have
estate.
you ever heard me say no to you?
I don't give you the chance. Anyway, the first time I was elected president of the association, I decided to have a brokers meeting. And first of all, I won't say the names because I didn't know all the men's names at that time, but a good part of the brokers were men at that time. So there was this brokers meeting, and what I wanted to get for them is what they were looking for in the coming year to, have the association. But anyway, I hadn't been here that long. So anyway, the CEO of the association got up front and introduced me. So I'm walking from the back up, and there's a couple guys sitting there, and I don't even know who they are, to be honest. But I heard the one say, "Not only a woman, but a Yankee." Yeah. So that was one
That's
of
how
my.
you started out.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, good start to the
Yeah.
meeting.
That's fun.
It got better after that.
Which one offended you more, being called the woman
Or the Yankee.
I'm not that easily offended, I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
that's true.
Fair.
Yeah,
That's true.
I've been called worse.
Yeah.
Glenn, what would you like to see the association?
Well, I
look
think
like?
Marilyn's done a great job of explaining the way I would have thought also. In other words, you cannot be selfish in this type of business. You've got to be known in the community as somebody that cares. And it's what, sometimes people get a little to the point they emphasize money. And money can be made anywhere, anytime, any place. But friendship and knowledge and so forth needs to be expanded and taught.
Yeah.
And you need to emphasize that, not just revenue. And the revenue will come if you'll do those type of things. And I always put education way up at the top of the list. I don't go to very many of the educational programs now, but I used to not miss any of them.
You've probably forgot more than we know.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
So
I and encourage it
And still no more.
yeah.
So as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'd just like to say I'm proud to have been part of the growth of this organization. To see it go from 15 people in 1923 to thousands today,
Right.
it's been rewarding, and not in my pocket necessarily. It's been rewarding from an occupation, and I really had never planned to be a full-time realtor. Of course, I still kept my interest a little bit in the growth businesses, but my real claim in life was to watch Lake County make some changes that needed to be made, and they still need to be made. And you all are doing a great job with things like RPAC and
Right.
things like this that most of us don't realize until you participate. You go to Tallahassee and see the activities going on and
Right.
the problems that we all have, and the things, you know, every county, every board of realtors, they are needing the same thing in terms of help from the government in various forms, and you again meet a lot of people that you will never forget, you know.
Yeah.
To participate in these regional meetings and state meetings and national meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Final thoughts, Marilyn?
Final thoughts, I was just thinking about Glenn and, you know, working together, and I'll never forget, it's been probably 10 years or so now, but we had a listing, and one of Glenn's associates showed the listing and wrote the contract. Well, there became a personality conflict between Glenn's agent and the buyer for whatever reason. But anyway, we got it, you know, to closing, and it closed, and, you know, Glenn got his check, you know, the broker. And I'll never forget Glenn calling me and saying, Marilyn, I want to thank you. You know, I mean, you put us in there as the co-op office. And I said, well, your agent wrote the contract, and, you know,
Yeah.
and him telling me, but, you know, it wouldn't have closed, you know, if it wouldn't have been for you. And, you know, and I remember thinking at that time, wow, you know, that's sad to think, isn't it, that,
Well, I
you
got
know.
paid back, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah.
Over
Yes.
the years, I didn't do it for that reason, but it happened.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
happened.
yeah, it does. But I think, in closing, what I would say is, enjoy the technology, embrace it, use it where it's positive, but never let it replace you.
Right.
Keep the personal, you know, vibe going on with
Yeah.
every customer, and
Yeah.
work in their best interest, and it'll pay off all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, AI can't do certain things. Like one of my agents, his favorite saying is when he gets a call from a stressed out client,
Mhm.
it's not time to panic yet. That's
Yeah.
what he'll say. It's
Yeah.
not time to panic
Yeah.
yet. You got to remain calm. But AI can't do that.
Yeah,
So I
Yeah.
agree with you. Having that personal touch,
yeah,
being able to listen, empathize, and walk them through
you
this
get to
very
know, you
litigious
get
process.
to know the people and what
Right.
is
Be friends.
calming to them and what is, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a people business for sure. And let's face it, a lot of them are making the biggest investment of their life, you know, in their
Absolutely.
own,
Absolutely.
yeah. It's
But
important.
what Marilyn's saying about missing the opportunities to meet people face to face, I can tell today that I had as an example, a sale going on with a listing agent way up in Pasco, not Pasco County, but Flagler County. And I said, I want to talk to the broker. And that salesperson was just totally just disgusted with that idea. Why do you want to talk to my broker? Well, that's the way we used to do business.
Exactly.
Not because we were elevated in a special spot as being the owner or whatever. We were wanting to solve an issue because
Right.
it doesn't get better if you don't hit it head on early. All it does is fester and get worse.
Yeah.
But see, they don't teach that in schools today, in colleges or in courses. Like, I have to tell people that I felt flattered and honored that I was in one of the first classes at Burt Rogers. See, when the Board of Realtors were founded, they had a textbook that was written by Dr. North from the
Mhm.
University of Florida.
Mhm.
And that's how you pass the test. I came along at the time I was able to take the Burt Rogers course. He himself and Bill Edmonds taught the course in Orlando on Orange Blossom Trail. And, there's no teaching that is promoted today, in my opinion, about brokers. Get to know your competition, get to know your friends. They are your friends.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be your friends.
Right.
That's what I would say in this new group of well-educated people. But they also haven't had very many bad times where some of us, not Marilyn, but me in age, I can remember the very end of World War II, or I can remember Korea, and I can remember Vietnam. Things were different, and the economy was different, and money was scarce. And I tell people, car dealers in Eustis, if they had 6 cars in the car lot, that was their inventory.
Wow.
And now I drive by and see these hundreds and hundreds of cars. I can't comprehend that in my own head. But that's growth, and that's different. That's a different way of life. And financing is different. Bankers are different. The banks don't know who you are. They know your computer number.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Some of our better bankers back in the early days, they would make it a point to know your business.
Mm-hmm.
But today, they don't care. All they look at is
Still some good
the
ones
bottom
here.
line on that ledger sheet.
Well, there's some of the local ones around.
Yeah, there are
very,
some.
very
I don't
good.
mean to
Yeah.
come on that strong.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has been so much fun. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh,
President Dyer.
absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to hear. I could listen all day to these stories.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah, and how you paved the way for us, and hopefully I paved the way for others in 20
Absolutely.
or 30 years
That's
too.
true.
Absolutely.
And what you all have accomplished, what I
We're working
see
on it.
going on, I'm really proud to have been a small part of it.
And you're still active in the business?
Somewhat. I show up every day, but I don't necessarily do a whole lot of work.
My uncle told me old realtors never retire, they just become listless.
Listless, that's right. Yeah. I never know that you become
That's about
listless.
where I am.
Yeah.
I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your membership. And thank you for all the many awards that you've been a part of, but especially the best one, the Realtors Association of Lake and Sumter Counties. Thanks for joining me and our guest on the Deeds of Trust podcast. If you got value from today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's navigating the real estate journey.